Want to paint something pretty today? These mini flowers are the perfect practice subject to build your confidence and get you painting something you're proud of. Hi guys, welcome back. My name is Shada and today's watercolor tutorial is designed for the absolute beginner. We're going to get you painting even if you've never painted, even if you have really cheap supplies. I myself am using a Canson watercolor sketch pad, and I have a 48 pan watercolor paint set from Moongyo. And then my brush, I'm going to do all this with one brush. It's a number 2 pointed round brush. You might want to grab a 1 or a 0 if you're just getting started. It's helpful to have a really tiny one, but all of these supplies are linked in the video description if you're interested. Now I'm starting by mixing up a nice warm green. This is a mossy green that's in the palette, but if you don't have a mossy green, maybe just mix in a little red or brown into your green. And then I'm mixing up a nice hot pink, so dark pink with a little bit of red, and we'll start with a rose. For this little flower, you're simply going to paint a tiny little pink spiral and then get the paint off your brush and come back in with water and sort of bleed that circle out. Put a little bit of extra paint at the center and that's it. Let's do it again. Little broken spiral, messy spiral. Get the brush wet and then bleed that circle out, bleed the paint out, and then come back in with just a little more pigment and put a little in the center, very loose rose. Then I'm using that green that I mixed up and I have a bit on the tip of the brush. I'm adding some stems, and then I'll use the same brush and I just add a bit more pressure. I pull the brush across the page and whatever sort of shape emerges, that is my leaf. And then to finish the first one, we simply take a little bit of that pink and dot some more pigment at the flower's center. Okay, next one. This is a fun one. You are going to paint a couple circles, and then we're going to join all those circles, maybe do one more with these tiny little lines, and we'll give that a stem. Let's do another one. I'm going to start with the circles here, and then we're going to join them all together, maybe do one more, and add the stem, maybe a leaf or two, and this is the sweetest, simplest little floral. Next, I'm mixing up a rich, mustardy, dark yellow. This is a yellow with a little bit of brown in it. If you don't have a color like this in your palette, just take a nice sunshine yellow and add extra brown or orange. And then I am going to come over here and do these tiny little 4 or 5 petal flowers. You can see I just sort of pull the brush across the page. I allow whatever loose shape to emerge. It could be 3 or 4 or 5 petals. And these are some very loose, very tiny little flowers. We're going to paint a whole bunch of them in a cluster. Some are smaller, some are bigger, some are just a basic little heart shape. And then I am coming back in with a dark green. You could choose any sort of contrasting or darker color. We're adding stems, and again we're adding leaves, and I make those leaves by pulling the belly of the brush across the page. I kind of just go with whatever shape emerges, and if you need to, flip that page upside down. If you prefer to pull the brush towards your body, give yourself that advantage. Next, I'm mixing up a really dark, rich purple, and for that color, I'm mixing purple and brown together. I want a really rich, warm shade, and then I'm going to start again in green with my stems. We're going to do 2 or 3 or 4 little lines here for the stems. This is sort of a lavender flower. And you're going to come in with that rich dark purple and just do these little pairs of ovals, little oval brush strokes. You can either pull the brush towards you or push it away from you, and just allow the brush to kind of hit the page and just leave it at that. You can do some more watery brush strokes as well to get that nice watercolor look, and just put a little extra pigment into the wet area and let it bleed out, and it looks nice and loose. For the next flower, we begin with a stem, and I'm going to do kind of a Y shape. So 2 stems that meet, and then I am adding a bunch of little leaves. Same formula, just pull that belly of the brush across the page, allow a loose shape to emerge, don't overwork it, and you can add as many leaves as you like. And then up at the top of each stem here, I'm taking a peachy blush color and I'm just pushing that brush away from me, doing these easy loose brush strokes to make a flower. While I've got that brown mixed up, I'll also add a stamen on the yellow flowers by doing a bit of dotting, and maybe I'll add a few little lines to these brown leaves as well. Our next flower is a daisy or a black-eyed Susan. We're doing some dotting in brown for the stamen. Then I come back with that yellow and I just pull that brush towards me, make these loose petal shapes. You can do 4 or 5, maybe add a little extra pigment. Just don't overwork them. Whatever shape emerges when that brush hits the page, just leave it. It's perfectly imperfect. And I'll do these thin little leaves. I do some stems and then add these tiny little oval brush strokes to make these kind of raggedy, shaggy daisy leaves. And I'll tuck one last one in behind there. All right, for the next one, we're going to do some berries. I always love adding berries to my florals. This is another great little mini painting that you can add to adorn any book or card. I am just doing a cluster of circles, and then I come back in with a dark color, a black, blue, or brown, just on the tip of my brush, and we join all those berries with a stem and finish them by adding some little leaves and then maybe a little dot or a few little lines at the top of each berry. And what would our florals be without eucalyptus? I start my eucalyptus with a stem and then these pairs of leaves. They keep getting larger, and sometimes you'll only do one because it's facing the viewer, so you actually can't see the pair. And I might lengthen that stem a little bit, add a bit more pigment to those leaves, and that is my simple eucalyptus. Here's another fun painting that fits in perfectly with your little mini florals. Begin with some stems. There can be 2 or 3 or 4. And here again, you're going to make these tiny little blooms by simply letting the brush hit the page and then just let it be. So we just pull it towards us or push it away, and you're just letting the belly of the larger part of that paintbrush kind of touch down on the page for a moment. And whatever little oval shape is there, that's what you stick with. And for our final little mini flower, I am doing a little fan shape of these tiny linear brush strokes. And you can do this light, dark, add a little extra pigment there. And then I'll come back in with a green or any other color, and we're going to give some stems to join them all. And then for this one, I'll do these really thin lines for leaves, something different. And we'll just tuck a whole bunch in there. To finish these mini flowers, I like to come back in once they've begun to dry and add some shading. So I might darken one side of each leaf or add a little bit of a darker color at the bottom of the larger leaves. You can add some delicate lines if you like to, or if that's a little bit like, no, I think I'm gonna mess them up, then just skip that. But I'll put a little line down the center of these. And for these tiny little 4-petal flowers, I like to add just a bit of darker pigment at the center. All right, that is our mini florals practice project all done. I hope you enjoyed painting along with me today. I know I certainly had a lot of fun with this. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more content like this.